I think I'm gonna try. I'm
There
gonna
you go.
try to just stay on the phone with you
And
guys
then
as
just
I
listen.
drive. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I've got
Yeah.
a lot of powerful things that have been coming through that people and connections and learning and things that I've known, and now I'm able to start to put pieces together. And as you can see from some of my posts, I'm not beating around the bush anymore.
I love how you're not holding back
I'm not holding back
because
anymore.
people need to hear that. Like I
People
do.
do. Yeah,
I
Yeah.
feel like I'm crazy. Am I crazy? 'Cause I'm
uh-huh.
thinking this or
Yeah,
feeling this, or and it feels so good just to have somebody acknowledge, like,
yeah.
oh, I'm not the only crazy one. If I am crazy, then we're all in this
they
together.
were they were all then it's all relative, right? What's crazy and what's not. And so
Yeah.
yeah, that's I sat down and wrote down, I was journaling myself, like what is it, what are some of my pain points that I have felt. And even now, even with all the work that I'm doing and what I'm pulling in and the conversations I'm having, it doesn't mean that those feelings aren't there. So it's time that we put them to words and really deal with them. So
Hmm.
welcome to Masterclass 3. This one is, I played around today. So I'm like, made a new green screen for us today. Masterclass 3, which is our laws. Well, we're going to cover a lot of things. I got to make sure I can get this in an hour and a half. We're going to watch little video clips. We're going to have a writing piece that we're going to stop. I'm going to read you something. You're going to respond to it. And I'm going to teach you new things today. So I'm also bringing to you the most recent book that I don't have enough room for all my tabs. I don't. I'm like, I'm running out of room. And I think I'm on chapter 17. I stopped putting tabs on them. I'm like, this is crazy. But it's called Wise Power. And I don't even know how I got here, but I'm really happy I did this through Hay House. I feel like every time I find a new seed, it leads me to something else. And I've read entire books where I just needed one line out of it that was like, oh my God, right? Or someone I think that's what happened with this. In something else I was reading, they named this person. I was like, ooh, and they seem to love her. So I'm like, I got to go find this. So Wise Power, it's called. It's co-written by two authors. I'm actually going to play a video clip from Alexandra, sorry. She has a school called the Red School, and I looked at it, and thank goodness it's not open right now because I probably would throw myself into that too, because it's everything that I know and that we are coming here together with. I'm like, wait, she's created, it's in the UK, I think. She's created a space that is teaching all the things that I know and in one place, right? But I'm getting them piecemeal. So we are going to get started on our 5 and 6, which is universal law of inspired action and cause and effect. So they are very normal laws that go to everything that we live. We know that there's a cause and effect. That's why I love bringing the grounded knowing of truth of how we live with a spiritual aspect of it and a sacredness of our true body and what's going on. But so don't forget, the universal laws are not about menopause. They're about the laws of life and how things work, like cause and effect. We use that and we know that all the time. You touch a hot stove, you're going to get burned, cause and effect, right? And the inspired action is huge, especially if someone is looking to manifest something or shift something. We can't just think it. Although I'm a mindset coach, that's the core of starting to shift, but then we have to take action. So this is big for this week of looking at, we're going to look back a little bit about things that come up for us and then making choices and also seeing how our choices affect not just us, but everyone else. So we ready to get started?
Yes.
All right. So let
Yes.
me get into sharing screen. And I definitely want to share sound because we're going to watch a couple things today. All right.
I love how you said you just fooled around a little today and made a new background. That would probably take me 2 weeks to do, Jen,
Yeah.
in all honesty. You're like, I just fooled around a little bit. I had an extra 20 minutes.
Probably 10. I came down and I was like, oh, I don't like that background. And I go, and I think I was wearing this pink shirt the last time. I'm like, if not consistent, I guess, every 2 weeks. I'm like, oh well, so let me change the background then, since I can't change what I'm wearing. Thank you for that, though. That's actually a compliment. I forget that
Yes,
sometimes.
it is.
Thank you. I forget that sometimes I can do things right, and I needed that today. So thank you.
Good. You're welcome.
So this is our masterclass 3. I played around with this picture. Actually, it's something that I'm working on Dare to Lead, not Dare to Lead, Lead as You Would Follow. and also
Ooh.
the evolve, emerge, expand. So all this with this red, right? This red. When I heard red school, I was like, oh, she's in my right place here. But I played around a little bit, right? The evolution of us and coming about and coming in our growth as well. I'm going to play 2 different clips, and the contrast is what I want you to recognize in how much we have come to not recognize. I don't want to say recognize. We've gotten used to the flippancy, the normalcy of making fun of. And I when I found this, it's a comedian, so I'm going to play it. But for some reason, I guess because where I'm deep diving now, and I'm not joking about it, it was really, well, I don't want to put any words out there. I want to see what you think about once we've watched it. And then I'm going to play a piece from Alexandra, the one of the authors of this book. I was able to find both in the contrast of where we are, because sometimes we don't recognize how much we don't realize how we're put down, if you want to say, or we are made fun of. And I was definitely feeling this, as my husband would say something as a joke about, oh, mom's going through something, or the kids would say something. And I felt insulted in a way, because I wasn't feeling like I was being honored by these great changes. And this has been the case for years and years and years. So without further ado, let's see if it works like I want it to.
Now, what's that?
If you're over
Alexandria?
50, you don't want
Say that again.
to use traditional makeup.
What'd you say,
What's
Melissa?
that? What's that? Alexandria's last name?
Her Pope, Pope.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem at all. All right, let me see if I can skip. I was hoping that I put this on, I could skip it, but that's not working.
Oh
As
yeah,
we age,
Bobby
our
Brown's not
skin
gonna let you
tends
skip
to
her
lose.
commercials.
Say that again.
YouTube just hooks you.
I said Bobby Brown's not gonna let you skip her commercials.
Hey, Bobby Brown gets some of my money, so
Yes.
so I can do it.
I love my wife. She started menopause about 1.5 years ago. So there are nights I lie in bed and dream about the good old days of PMS. Trust me. I can't get my home cold enough for my wife. She's always on the phone with the air conditioning guy. It's broken again. I'm going, it's not broken. There's not enough Freon in the world for this woman. If there's a hole in the ozone, it is over the roof of my home, trust me. That's 48 degrees in my house. I'm hanging meat off my curtain rods. It's still not cold enough for her. And she wakes me up in the middle of the night to feel her night sweats. Is that necessary? Laying in bed, wake up, Jeffrey, feel this. It's disgusting. I'm just laying here. There's like a furnace in me or something. Boy, you're sure lucky you don't have to go through this. Well, I wouldn't if you'd quit waking me up. I told my boys, watch out, man. Mom's going through some stuff. She says, what do you mean? Those nights you don't do your homework and she get mad and yell at you? And he said, yeah, it'll be a little different now. She might start crying and then stab you. So.
Okay, so let's come back in. Yeah, right. And I'm all for humor, right? I was playing one from the 70s show when we started, but there was something that really hit me somewhere in there. So thoughts on humor in bringing in, I know it's fake, it's pretend, it's humor, but we know that this is how we treat it, right? Everywhere, the kids, other men, right? And how we're looked at. And in taking that in all the time, what type of message does it give us?
Oh yeah, and especially depending on where you're at in your life, like it well with me. I don't want to label my former as a narcissist, but there are some high tendencies of that being true. So if you're already trying to reestablish your empowerment in yourself, and you're hearing these knocks all the time and you're thinking it's the norm, it's something funny or something to be feared or something to dread, it really doesn't do you as an individual or me any it's not helpful.
Mhm.
right? Because part of that cycle of, making a joke, it's just a joke, isn't a joke.
Mhm.
So I think as I'm learning is men really do not understand and have some underlying fear of just how powerful women are. And they're just not ready to acquiesce their their hold on being in the driver's seat.
Great word, acquiesce. Yeah. I don't think they even know. And we've been the butt of jokes
Mm-hmm.
so for so long, right?
Yeah.
And there are times where we joke about it, right? And we need to be able to have that collective. But it almost feels culturally like, right, where we would not partake in jokes of other nationalities and cultures, and it would be looked at very off color. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And but this is okay. And I even think about times where I was in surrounded by other people who would make jokes that would be off color to me, and
Yeah.
I would either smile and even snicker a little to because I was uncomfortable and I wanted to not be that person that was like, oh, she's so uppity, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm finally at a place where no, that's not funny, and not just about menopause but anything else. But even how
And
he brought go ahead.
no, anything. I was agreeing with you.
Yeah,
Absolutely
yeah,
anything.
yeah. But even how we brought in his kids, right? Like, think about how long, because again, this is just comedy, but it's not. It's a reflective of how we've been for years and years and years, right? Talking with our kids, our sons. So if he's talking about boys, right? What is he teaching them? Oh, mom's crazy. You're at which that's what they're going to treat their wives or girlfriends like, whether they're menstruating or they are in menopause, right? The whole gamut. We're talking about menopause, but this is about all parts of our cycles and how we have been shut down for so, so long.
Yeah. What if he had girls?
Mhm.
Like he said, my kids. Like
Yep.
I remember being young when I was younger. My dad was laughing. My dad was blue collar, and he said how his best friend called his 10-year-old daughter, referred to his 10-year-old daughter as a bitch.
Ooh,
And I went, wow.
yeah.
And I was about 13, and my dad's like, well, you know how you get. She's getting her cycle early. I said, that's his daughter. I remember very
Hmm.
clearly. We were walking down the street. I'm like, and I said to him, would you call me that?
Mm.
Is this really how you view women?
Right. And I
Um,
think they don't even recognize it. That's the part that's so
no.
difficult because it's been generationally handed down. There's something also called the 500-year witch wound, which has
Ooh.
come from the Salem witch trials and all these times where it was a powerful place of shift in our epigenetics, in our environment, in ourselves, because we were forced to turn on each other, to give up someone else in your community for trying to keep maybe your daughter or your sister or yourself or whoever, right? So there was this turning, which is history, and that was a huge piece of a shift in our literally our DNA, our epigenetics of our entire environment and how we live. And that continued to get passed down to of silencing ourselves, of not complaining, of not speaking out, and of turning on each other, because that's where we still are. That's the part that we're trying to heal, not just in with
Mm,
men, but with each other. Because if we could catch ourselves and be completely honest, me included, I will go default in my head, whether it's an outfit or a choice or words. And I'm so quick in my mind to judge. And I'm like, "Hmm," right? To
mhm.
slow myself down. That's the shift that we're making so that we can hold this space and understand the sacredness and the power of it. Where now you're seeing this is our time. You're looking at, well, Michelle, you shared it with Holly Berry, right? My Matt just shared it with me today, and I didn't tell him that you already shared it because I wanted him to be thought he did something good. So I didn't say anything. But it's a huge shift going on right now. There's no surprise in that this is what we're talking about. So
And it comes from a
go
little
ahead.
bit lack too. Like we as women, if you're just, it just made me think of that when you said we're trying to heal this wound, that witch wound. That's a lot of lack. If you're turning against each other, that's a lot of feeling like
Huge,
you're not going to have my daughter, or
huge.
I'm going to sell you out because I
Mhm.
want mine. And
Yes. It's
yeah,
fear, it's scarcity,
yes.
it's holding tight to what you have with the fear that it's going to be taken away,
Yeah.
which leaves no room for this very more open, holding that bandwidth and space for another woman. Mhm.
Oh, very
Absolutely.
vulnerable. Yeah. Cause it's all,
Absolutely.
don't you like in my younger years, I almost felt like I had to watch my back more with
Mhm.
women in my peer group, especially career wise. There's just this, depending on the environment of where you're working, corporate, school, whatever, hospital, there can be this there's a creation of this, watch your back. You have to collaborate, but watch your back.
Mhm. A
And
lack
I'm
of
just
trust.
so glad to be out of that. But I definitely experienced that when I first moved to New Jersey, like 20 something years ago, in the corporate world. Like you could be good, but don't be so good.
Don't be
Don't be
so good,
too good.
right? That's like that
Mm-hmm.
scene in Barbie, right?
Yeah.
Be good enough, but don't be too good. Look good, but
That's
don't
right.
have someone else, right? That's just the best
Yes.
monologue ever, that piece of it. Yeah,
Oh,
I absolutely agree. I love that. I love that scene. That's my
We're
favorite
taught
screen.
that the menopause is a huge
Oh, hold on. It already
drama, an
started.
ordeal that we have. We're taught.
Okay, it already started. So now,
That's right.
sorry about that. In contrast, I was trying to be so ready and then it doesn't work, doesn't hold where I'm at. So here's Alexandra Pope. This is one of the two authors, one of the two from the book. So I want you to get a feel for what I'm immersing myself in and how I am so grateful that I just keep getting breadcrumbs. I'm going to talk about Mary, which Morningstar, Melissa, to you that you met last year, and this amazing, powerful conversation we had in the next level of sacredness, if you want to know. But here's Alexandra.
Taught that the menopause is a huge drama, an ordeal that we have to somehow survive. And we're not really given the true story on the emotional and spiritual change that we go through. And I want to change all that with you. Hi, I'm Alexandra, one of the co-founders of Red School. And I'm going to give you 5 ways to approach menopause so that you can have the best menopause ever. The first way, if you are still menstruating, make peace with your menstrual cycle. And by that I mean practice cycle awareness. Note what day of your cycle you're on, the energy and mood of that day, and cooperate with that energy as best you can. And do that each day. And as you do that, you get to know yourself at a deeper and deeper level. And what is happening is you are actually quietly building the instruction manual for going through menopause. Now, if you've already stopped bleeding, make peace with the menstrual journey that you have had by reflecting on it. And I would even suggest that you go back and learn about the powers of menstruation, because post-menopause, all those powers of the menstrual cycle still live inside you. So make peace with the menstrual cycle one way or the other. 2, know your strengths and vulnerabilities and love that. By that I mean know what you're good at and what you're not so good at, and make that right with yourself. Give yourself full permission to be utterly, unashamedly yourself, warts and all. 3, recognize that you're going through a transition. And when we go through a transition, we shouldn't expect of ourselves the things that we normally expect of ourselves. At menopause, you're going through a death and rebirth process. You're ending one way of life and you're going to be building another life for yourself, a new story. And that process takes time. It's a death and a rebirth. And your psyche needs time and space to process that. And if you can just give yourself some slack, don't push yourself in the same way, you're going to find a level of stress will fall away and you'll start to feel a new story unfolding through you. 4, Self-care is non-negotiable. You can't argue with this one. You have to take care of your health right now. And it's all the usual culprits of diet and exercise. But remember, the golden rule going through menopause is actually kindness with ourselves. And you're going to be kind about what you can and can't do around self-care. So just take baby steps in changing your diet. Take baby steps in the exercise you choose to do. Just a little bit more, and something will unfold. But you have to do it. And the other really important thing in self-care is that you're going to need more downtime at menopause. Remember, you're going through a death and rebirth process, not an everyday process, and you need space and time to be able to do that. And the incredible magic of downtime is you're going to have more space and time for yourself, and you're actually going to really feel what you absolutely need to do. It's like the instruction comes from within. 5, finally, revisit menarche. That's your first bleed. Now that might sound really strange. Here you are at the end of your menstruating journey, and I'm saying go back and revisit menarche. But how you experienced your first bleed set the tone for your whole menstruating journey. And if there's any kind of shame or wounding that occurred at that time, it needs to be attended to, cared for, and healed in some way for you to be able to close this chapter. Now, at Red School, we have a terrific course, Menarche, that
Okay, so that's as far as I'm going to go with her for now. But just to give you the feel and the great contrast between making fun, where it has been a patriarchal life and world, and guaranteed that many people would listen to this and go, oh, really? There's a class on menopause. Everyone goes through menopause, right? There's going to be pushback, definitely, which is part of the reason why I didn't want to step forward with this passion that I suddenly was dropped in my lap, because I was like, oh my God, really? There's so many other things that are more exciting that people want to hear about. Can I just talk about angels and and these kinds of things, which is all part of this, right? So I love her 5. I wasn't going to go through all 5. I'm like, no, there's only 5. Let's go through. Let's give that part at least to get those 5. And I was like, oh my God, we're so on track with how we even started our very first session talking about our memory from our first bleed, right? And what came up and some of the traumas and some of the parts that need to go back and revisit. So
I wanted to
there's
share
our,
with you guys,
oh yeah, go ahead. That's our contrast we're looking at right now. Go ahead.
like after I had my last daughter, um, I had this like pain, and it was like kind of like in my groin area, and it just felt like
Whew.
I was sitting on needles or something all the time. And like I would go to the doctor and like tell them, and like I went back to the oncologist, they ran all these tests, nothing. Like I went like that for like a year, to the point like I was going to work every day, but it was getting like hard to walk and stuff. And finally, like we kind of live in a smaller community, so finally I'm like, I've got to figure something out. So I made an appointment like in a city like an hour away from us, like talking to some other women and stuff. But like I worked at a coal mine with all pretty much men. So it was
Mm.
like, just keep going, like whatever, like
Just keep, right? Just keep
yeah,
pushing, just keep
yeah,
going.
what's wrong? Oh, just wear your heating pad at work, like.
Mm-hmm.
So I did and everything, but and then they wanted, oh, you're probably just something wrong. Here, take these pain pills. And I got sick of it. It's like I'm not doing this anymore. I don't like how I'm feeling. Like so I finally went there, and like he did exploratory surgery, and it was like ligaments in my uterus were like broke on one side.
Wow.
And like I had never heard of that from like anybody. So like I guess I'm a freakazoid, but
No, because remember, that's one of the 13th right, the Moonai key 13th right is the healing
Mhm.
womb, because that is where, and I told Ashton we're going to do a little healing together, because that is where we hold our trauma, our grief, our pain, our resentment, anything that has happened to us, we store it in our womb. So it's not crazy at all that this was what was going on. So things that go on in your life, we tend to hold that. For women, we hold it in our womb. Men don't even have that, right? We have this place to give birth. We have this place for creation. Unfortunately, we're creating things that we do not choose or want to manifest because we're shoving this in this very sacred, amazing, magical place that we have within our body, but we've been shoving all the shit literally in there. And then we can say it's all the reasons, right? Why people get ovarian cancer or uterine cancer. We put shit in there. When you put shit in there, like it's going to cause a disruption. And we have for years and for generations. So thank you for sharing that, Melissa. And you're not crazy. You're not crazy at all. But they made you feel crazy by not listening to you and ignoring your cries for support and help.
I would go home and just like be laying on the couch too, like after work, because I was like just so exhausted from pushing myself, like
And you notice one of the things that's all the way through everything that I'm reading, everything that's coming in is this state of being in relaxation and slowing down, and part of us wants to fight against that because we've got this piece, this patriarchal piece in us that we can do anything, we can show up, because as soon as we are quiet, we're seen as weak or less than, right? And so we push past our threshold. And this is a time where we are being forced in many ways. You're like, oh my God, why am I so exhausted? What is wrong? And right away, I'm like, well, I didn't do this. I didn't do that. I didn't do anything major. Why am I so tired? Right? This is a built-in system of hello, we're telling you, slow down, right? And when, like she said, not to fight it, to lean into that. It is a completely different, that's the problem. We are in, like you're saying, Melissa, the go, 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 go. We need to show up, can't. What? She's going to stay home because she has menopause. Oh, she's going to stay home because she has her period, right? That's the mindset. We're really, I will share, actually, I was going to share this in a different part of the slides tonight. Here's a cause and effect, because we're going to jump into the R2 now. I was working at the computer upstairs, and partially I was writing a chapter yesterday in my book, and partly I was rearranging and putting this stuff in. And so Jordan's girlfriend was here for a couple days, and she came out and she saw my stack of books. She's like, what are you doing? What are you reading? And I'm like, well, do you really want to know? She's like, yeah. So I started to tell her about this. She's like, she goes, you know what? That's all over TikTok now. I said, what's all over TikTok? Menopause? Like, she's like, no, how to use your cycle. And I was like, really? Because I don't spend a huge amount. I mean, I'll go over, and I'll drop things, but I don't spend a lot of time. I said, really? She's like, yeah. I said, well, then you'd love the book, The Red Code. I'm reading that one simultaneously to learn about my cycles that I didn't know as I work forward. And she's like, oh, can you send me that book? And I was like, absolutely. Right. So this is what is happening. We're creating a space for us and great, great healing, but we're also opening the doors for grandchildren and daughters and girlfriends of my son, right? My brain went, right?
That's so awesome.
Right. And so if I had kept my mouth, I'm like, you don't really talk about this cycle, right? I was like, oh my God, wait till you hear. And that's exactly how I came out with it. And she wanted to hear all about it.
And it's so nice how people are talking about it now. Like, just 10 years ago, you didn't really hear people. It was kind of like your own thing, just deal with it,
Absolutely. Okay, so now I'm going to try to share my screen. We're going to go back in again, and we're going to go back to I'm getting better at this. All right, so here's our 2 laws this week for all of you who are joining us later and who are here now. Do I have this? Yeah. Law of inspired action. So I just put them straight on here. Taking inspired action aligned with your highest intentions allows you to actively participate in your healing journey during menopause or anytime. This is just specifically about menopause, whether it's adopting healthier lifestyle habits, seeking support from holistic practitioners, which I was looking for someone, functional medicine doctor I was looking for, or engaging in self-care practice. I couldn't be happier just to play that clip that so aligns with what we're car
It
when you're doing,
did.
right? It's so perfectly, right? To create a positive change. So we need to take action. We talk here, this is the beginning, planting that seed, but then we need to do things to change where we're at. We're going to do something in a couple slides. I have journal prompts, but we're going to do something different that I'm going to ask you to write. And then the second one, which is, well, it's number 6, actually, the law of cause and effect. And we know this one from life, right? Recognizing the relationship between your thoughts and your emotions and your actions supports you in taking responsibility for your experience through menopause, after menopause. That's why it doesn't matter right now if it's peri, if it's during, or if it's after. This is all about taking responsibility for ourselves, right? Understanding our beliefs. That's why I played both of those I was going to say this morning, no, tonight. Patterns, behaviors, how we are connected, and how we can break the cycle of suffering to feel more empowered throughout this, and seeing it and understanding and becoming acutely aware of how things have been played out in life and we haven't seen it. So today, to help you out, since I don't know that you're all going to run out and buy the book, and you don't necessarily have to, because I'm bringing it to you, I grabbed some of the pieces that I really liked from a couple pages. And if you do get the book, I put the page numbers on here so you can see it, because I'm taking them directly from the book. Menopause itself is a huge transition biologically, emotionally, and spiritually, because you step into an in-between world, in between identities. That's so big that I'm understanding. You don't have the same everyday buffering or armoring with which you ordinarily define or protect yourself. It's like shedding a layer of clothing, leaving you more exposed to the metaphorical elements. This is neither good nor bad. It's simply the nature of change. And Gina said something just a little bit ago about being very vulnerable. And I love that she said it's like shedding a layer. Because to me, here we're not shedding any longer, right? Our uterine lining isn't shedding any longer, but we're shedding an outside piece. It's like those little Russian, the dolls that used to fit inside of each other. We're taking them off to get to our core. Your vulnerabilities are more exposed, and that includes those in your health. This is huge for us right now. It's not just because we're getting older. We can't put off things in our health any longer. So stress and exhaustion, nutritional depletion, and body overload with environmental pollutants, which we already have and we know, all have a huge impact on your hormonal health, causing menopause symptoms. So we really have to get on our game during this time. Oh, sorry. I'm just seeing, oh, Angel just sent me a message that she wasn't going to be able to be here tonight. Something about Suki, so I hope she's okay. So this is where we're at. It's not just, yeah, we'll send her good thoughts. It's not just about hormonal changes. Like we always just want to slough it off. Like it's hormones. Everyone has to deal with it. It's so much more than that. Yes, they are affected and they affect us, but what is affecting them? And how can we make that a better place for ourselves? So those are our two. Oh, no, that's not, that was on the page before. So here's our next 2 slides, and then we're going to do a little work. So I got to get a pen handy. Well, Gina, you can't do that when you're driving, but you can think about it. Please don't do that while you're driving. So these are the other 3 pieces that I pulled out. I felt were so powerful from as far as I've been right now. And then I'm going to share what Mary had to say when I called her with my question. Page 92 talks about separation. Perhaps one of the clearest signs of menopause is an increasing feeling that you're living in a parallel universe. How many people have felt that way? And it's not, you're not even like, where am I, right? Where am I? On the outside, you look entirely normal, going about your daily business, but on the inside, you feel increasingly separate from the world. It's as if life is going on out there and you're inside something else. It's almost as if you're viewing your life from underwater. I know this feeling.
Mhm.
I could be in a room with people and feel like we are so not connected. So
This
Gina,
is hitting all the marks. I'm
Me
serious.
too.
Like this is like I'm sitting here. I just had to unmute because I'm like, are you world right now. Like, this is crazy, but good, like affirming, but
Yes.
Yeah.
and not feeling alone, and
Yes.
getting that it's part of the process, and it's empowering. It's not
Mm,
the end of life. It is really a beginning of such strength that we get to embrace, that we kind of
absolutely.
understand it now. Like, I guess for our generation, right, ladies, like we understand differently because nobody talked about this when we
Nobody.
No.
and
And now it's
imagine,
on TikTok.
and now it's on TikTok. No wonder why
True.
they want to ban it. Good grief.
Well, it's funny because at first I was like, oh, it's terrible. It's owned. Our stuff is being hidden. It's being given out. And then the more I listen to people, there are some great arguments in that it's a very free place where people are sharing things that aren't wanting to be put out there, right? Nobody wants to know about holistic because it doesn't make a lot of money, because it's not paying, it's not big farm, it's not, all these things. And I'm not to get into a political conversation about TikTok, but I'm
No.
trying to keep my mind open to a lot of things. And just as we're saying, that's a great way of saying it, is what I picked out was not about giving you knowledge. It was about giving you connection and
Mhm.
affirming. In fact, when I read it, I was like, oh my God, because I have it. I'm a nut. I have the book, I have the Kindle, and I have my Audible. So as I was driving back and forth to my parents, I'm listening, but then I was like, oh my gosh. So then I take out my voice memos and I'm like, okay, page 92, go back into the book. Really, because I'm like, I need to see it in print too, right? And that's the part where I wanted to share. These are the pieces. It is empowering to
Mhm.
understand that we're not crazy, and that this is the part where I feel that it's very much so wanting to keep us separate, to not say, oh my God, yes, right? Make that
Mhm.
connection and make that powerful collective support system for us.
Yeah. This can
That,
even be the opposite end of the spectrum of Roe v. Wade, keeping us separate too.
oh, 100%. Yes. Of
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
many places, right? This is
Yeah.
the truth entirely about. Take off the table menopause, take off the table even men or women, keeping people separate, right?
Mhm.
Divided we fall, right? Separate and divided will keep us ignorant, unknowing of what is already been there, right? And that we could be walking the steps and understanding this about ourselves. So separation is a huge tactic to keep people small.
Yeah. And that's
So the
with
second,
fear, right?
fear,
Then
because
they
it lets
couple it
it.
with fear.
Oh,
Yes.
it's like a powerful. It's a powerful way of attack, right? Of
Mhm.
it, fear, separation, and then growing fear.
There was
It's
something I read, and then I won't,
no,
I'll need
go
to like
ahead,
mute
please.
again.
No.
You know how you look at it, even in like in a broader picture, like there's, let's just say, the top 3% of the people that make all the money in the
Mm-hmm.
entire economic system. It's because the rest of us, 97%, are not uniting
Yep.
and saying what gives.
Mm-hmm.
We are
How'd you
so
do it?
plugged in, right?
Yep. Yep.
We're so
Yep.
plugged in. And holistically, Caleb was a massage therapist. Massage therapy was not a big thing until I say he had another spurt in his business maybe 5 years ago, because it was the in thing to do with lymphatic drainage and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. But you can't show off a massage. You can
Mm.
show off a car, you could show off a manicure. You can't show
Mm-hmm.
off holistic things other than
Mm-hmm.
living to 102, so
Other than living a good life, so you feel so
right,
healthy and good. No, I know I'm
you
joking,
know
but
what I mean?
yes, I
Yeah.
absolutely know it. It's the truth, right? It's something that is seemed to be a for the rich, right? That's something
Yeah.
they can automatically do, but for the rest, and then it was also, right, a separation. It's, to me, I feel
Yes.
like physical and mental now are non-negotiables for me, where to me it would
Mhm.
have been the extra where, oh, that's if I had something special, right? Now I ask for it for every Mother's Day. They're like, what do you want? I'm like, I want a gift certificate for a massage. Like, that would be, I would love that. They're like, really? I'm like, but we got that for you. I'm like, yeah, that's like, for me, it's like, put it on the list, because that's what I need, right? I need
Yeah.
the physical manipulation along with the mental and the spiritual, right? We need to actually take action. We cannot
Yes.
see a change without absolutely taking an action.
Mhm.
and doing something
Mhm.
different. And like you said, doing something different and asking, like this entire course can be fit to every aspect of our life if you took off even menopause on here, right? Why are
Yep.
we not asking questions? Why are we not tapping into that, 3%, 1%, whatever? I think it might even be 1%, which is crazy. Why
Yeah.
are we not trying that? Because we've been taught to say, oh, that's just them.
Yes. Yes.
That's not us.
Instead of saying, how can that be me?
Mm-hmm. How can I manifest? How can I take action? How can I take inspired action? If you've ever read the book, Think and Grow Rich, it is a book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's what's making me think of right now. Love it.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, thank you for unmuting. Unmute as much as you want, because this is our
Okay.
space today. And I will weave around it, because that's what this is about. It's not about, oh, let me get all the pieces in, right? Because you have all this. It's the
But
conversation.
you have great pieces that just make you want to be like, oh,
Well, I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
And
I
that's what makes
resonate.
it great for you guys to speak and to join, right? That's why I've redone this with less slides each week, less questions and activities. I've learned to under plan rather than over plan. I always want to give everything, but I
yeah.
want the conversation to be the driving force through all this. So never
And
feel like unmute all the time. Go ahead, Melissa.
how I was gonna say, how cool is it that Halle Berry went up
Mhm.
against the Senate and talked about it? Like
Yeah.
that
Yes.
blew my right while we were having this class. I'm like, wow, this is blowing my mind.
If that doesn't show us that this is a shift, a massive shift, I mean, even for you all showing up and honoring yourselves and trusting me and coming together to have this like there's a million other things you could have spent your money on, right? And this is
Mhm.
where you trusted, because you know this is a piece that you're going to be taking back and planting it and working it and work it throughout your life. Yeah.
And
And
what's cool
hopefully,
is when I've listened to the replays, and I don't know if you guys, we all end up sounding and speaking and reflecting exactly the same thing by the end of these things. Like, it's just a place for us to unify and have that vibrational energy, which is why
Mhm.
Halle Berry picked up on it, because she's
Yeah,
got
yeah,
one
she
gun,
did.
we
That's
did
what I'm
right?
it.
saying.
We started it. So
It was so powerful. It
We
went to the
pulled
Senate.
right.
Yep, we pulled her in. We're like, hey, we need a voice out there from the Actors Guild. Can you step up for us?
But really, how it very well could, because Jen, this was not on your radar at all. This was
No.
something that flew, and you're like, why am I doing this? What's the purpose? I mean, now when I look at things like that, like Halle Berry, it's very cool, but is very divinely connected. I believe
I believe that
1,000%
too.
that
That's the
there is
collective.
we rippled out, like we rippled out. Yep.
That's the
All
collective.
right,
And that's go ahead.
no, Sierra's gonna get in the car, so I'm
Okay.
gonna mute now, and she's gonna
Okay.
be like, "What are you ladies talking about?" She's 16; she can handle it. She's
Yes. This is for her too. This is for her too, to understand mom and understand herself better, right?
One thing I
Beautiful.
wanted to say, I was
Go ahead.
listening to the teenagers like kind of talk, and they're all like 12 and 13 and just started their menstrual cycle and stuff. But I just caught like little bits and pieces of like what their orientation is going into middle school, and the principal was going to talk about school shooting first thing, and I told John, I'm like, that's where our society is now.
Mhm.
That's where we're at,
Yep.
and it's so
It
sad.
is. It is very much so. There, it's fear everywhere that we talk about, that it's protection, but it's just more and more fear and less connection to self, really. And I love that. Well, pulling that together is that this is the truth, and the fact that you can see this, just you're my people, right? And that there's the collective energy, and everything affects everything. So 100%, Halle Berry, you should thank us, and we'll thank you right back for stepping up for us as we connect with you, right? Beautiful. So the second of the three that I pulled out for you is the end of compromise. And this one hit me hard too. So that's on 93. Your life may be ticking along, and then one day a switch flips and you see all the ways you've been compromising or betraying yourself. It hits you squarely between the eyes. You get radical and give up the pretense of trying or wanting to make things work or hold things together. You may or may not act or change things right away, but a line is in the sand has been drawn, and you know you can no longer keep crossing for the sake of others. I don't know why I put a capital C there. Sorry. You say no more. You have a new intent for yourself now that will shape your life from here on. And I mean, that went on and on, but the end of compromise. And I know exactly, and I'm sure you ladies know what that is. Suddenly you're like, wait, I know, right? You're just kind of like, wait a minute, like this is irritating to me, or I'm not agreeing, right? The end of compromise. And it's like a switch. And I remember my mom using her voice at one point and saying, I earned the right to say what I wanted. And I agree with her. She just didn't know how to do it at that point. And of course, I was still in the very people pleasing stage. I was a teen and I was like, what? Oh my God. I was so embarrassed for her using her voice. It was in a store somewhere. But the truth of it is, we get to a point where we're tired of always compromising. It does not mean that we won't, but that's when you see there's these patterns and that we're like, we all acknowledge and feel the same things. And then that led into the other part that I pulled out was called the burn the house moment. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's flames in the picture. She's kind of standing like this with her hand up, like, oh, and she's got flames all around her. There may come a moment when you realize you can't maintain business as usual anymore, and that you simply don't care to. In fact, you don't care about anyone or anything. It's a seditious and liberating feeling, as if the contract you've had with life suddenly doesn't hold anymore. You are done with propping up the world, or at the very least, partners, children, friends, work, colleagues. Denial and resistance fall, and you simply want to walk away, feeling no shame. It could be subtle or it could be very intense. And I know that I've had feelings of this as well. The burn the house moment. I've had more than one. I don't know about you ladies, but definitely have had more than one. And it comes from where we've given and given and given and given. And just we're like, no, right? No, no more. And these are the affirming places where I wanted to see and show you when I'm reading it. I'm like, oh my God, yes. Oh my God, yes. Those moments where we really are connected. Oh, I see your little fire, Gina, in your messages. I love it. All right, so this is the part that I added. What's over here? Okay, so then we'll talk a little bit more about the two laws. I'm going to share this, and I'm going to talk about the two laws, and we're going to do an activity where I'm going to read you something, and I'm going to ask you to respond to it and see what comes up. So balance and truth, I called this one, and I created this picture to show lunar and sun. And so this is what happened about 2 weeks ago, a little over 2 weeks now. I was reading the other book, The Code Red, and they were talking all about the lunar cycle. And I was so jealous and angry, which they actually talk about in this book. If we hadn't found this before you stopped, and I'm now definitely crossed over into menopause, just about 2 months, I've hit a year. But I was like, damn, I could have lived my life entirely different. I would have definitely used, but then again, would I have been ready to hear this? Probably not. But in retrospect, it feels like I wish I could have. And so as I'm listening to this, understanding specific different parts of the cycle where we are, or were for me, would have been led into more introspective time versus a more expansive and feeling like powerful and go get him and getting out there, even down to sexual times in our life where we're more amorous and where we would have our best encounters, let's say, right? I was like, oh my God, how did I not know this, right? So it got
Does
me
it
thinking.
still
Well,
like
that's right. You're going to ask that question, right? It led me to the question: can we still use this? Can we still use the moon, which
the moon
everything
and
is
that's oh my gosh.
So you read my mind. So that was, I was, listening to it in the morning with the dogs, and I was like, oh, the exact thing that you're saying. I'm like, can I still use that? Am I still privy to this? Can I still tap into this power that I didn't know I had? And so I left Mary a quick voice message memo about this. This was my question, because all of a sudden I'm like, I heard Ask Mary, and I was like, oh, which she's very, medicine woman, ancient,
Wise.
tribal, like she knows this. She's a medicine woman. She's also a pilot and a badass, and she's just amazing, right? But I heard immediately to ask her. I was like, oh, okay, I will ask Mary, right? So I left her a message, and it must have been the exact time that she listened from beginning to end my message. The next thing I know, my phone rang. I was like, oh, it was her. I was like, hello? Because we don't normally talk on the phone. We'll message back and forth, but I had my earphones in, and 90 minutes later, we got off the call. And to say, suffice it to say, the things that I walked around away with, I will be still processing and unloading and unfolding for some time to come. Her energy, her knowledge is just immense. And I said to her, I feel like I just took a 3-year course, that it's going to take me in 90 minutes, that it's going to take me some time. But here's the long and short of it that I put into your workbook. That was my question. Can we still tap in? Here was her answer. And I hope I do her justice in explaining it. During the time that we are still bleeding, we are run by the cycles of the moon. That's how it's always been in the past. We've lost sight of that. In fact, much of that is lost with external input, synthetic hormones. If you're on the pill, all kinds of things affect the cycles that the young women are on right now. But my question is, can we use it if we're not bleeding? So during the bleed cycle, everything is run by the moon's energy alone, working with our womb, the womb magnetic to the moon. We see that with what happens when we have a full moon in school, with classes, with people, right? All the things, it absolutely affects us. And I don't know a lot about astrology, but we all know that, right? And we have a 28 to 31 day cycle. It's by the rotation, everything. Here's the really unbelievable, if you're ready for this, this is the part that just, I was like, I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. When we cross over to no longer bleed, and we're no longer shedding, and we keep that blood, and we are of the next level, the next layer, we have crossed into the next threshold of no longer simply using the energy and the magnet and the cycle of the moon as we had always done. We've now moved to the next level where we pull in blue light energy, she said. So we're coming in from the crown chakra. And not only are we pulling in this blue light energy, we are now working with both the moon and Solaris, the sun. We have ramped up, and I felt it in my bones. And when she said it, I cried, because I knew it, but I had no proof of this, or that this was the truth, and how she was explaining it. That we are now using the combination. We are more full than we've ever been. We are not empty, and we are not barren, and we are not finished. We have finished that cycle and moved into the next, which is why so many women of our age are connecting and creating new pathways, new relationships, ending old relationships, whether they be marriage or dating or friendships, right? Friendships that don't serve us any longer. It doesn't have to be romantic. That we have a greater knowing and intuition than we've ever had. We can read the room better. We can read people better. She said psychic connections, right? You can say it any way that you want. We're all psychic. We all have connections. We all know that, but we're at the next level. She went on to even then explain, so here's the fullness of the spiritual side. And I don't know, and I have shared with most of you the violet flame and using that light, that energy from Saint Germain. She said the blue light that we pull in, and the combination now of the moon and the sun together, not just one, we're no longer half, we are full. With the blood that we keep within, the crimson, the red that's no longer being lost. Well, blue and red brings us that beautiful violet, that powerful, powerful power of the violet flame that we use, and we use from within. So that is the amazingness. That's very hard to put into words, and it's not in any one of these books, but to tap into someone that was so knowing for tribes of people that she has served, that have served in lifetimes, and to understand the depths in a time that we are so taken up with technology and interruptions of all the things that come in and keep us at a distance, but we now are tapping back into that. So I'm doubting that Halle Berry is going to bring this to the Congress, but you
Nope.
needed to know. You deserve to know. And when I picked up the phone and she said, I am so excited, Jennifer, for this delicious conversation that we will have. And that's why I said this is juicy and delicious. And even though every part of me can't necessarily understand, I absolutely know it to be true. And it's what I knew to be true before I even started this new journey that I'm on. So she was the perfect person to give me this knowledge to pass along to you. So I give that to you with permission from Mary Michael and this massive next level that I knew nothing in our life is not without cycle and without great purpose. And I was right. We are at the next powerful juncture of our life, which is why we need to take care of ourselves so much more. So that being said, I'm going to go back to, let me find it. Our two laws before we do this little activity together: inspired action and cause and effect, right? We need to take inspired action, whether it's to speak about this with someone, something that you've learned, right? Sitting in that and breaking the cycle of being taboo or, right? Not doing that. That's taking action, whether it is reading a book, coming to the class, and then changing something about your life. It's not just about the learning that we're doing here. It's now taking this into our life and maybe saying yes to more rest, maybe saying no to more people, right? That's inspired action. That's taking action to shift how we have the epigenetics of what we've lived through menopause, what we have believed it to be and how we've experienced it. So creating new habits, maybe seeing a new doctor, Melissa, like how you said, no, enough is enough. No one's listening to me. I'm going to go to another doctor, right? Sometimes we have to hear no enough times before we choose a yes for ourselves. And then the other is cause and effect, right? By taking action, that's why these are so perfect together, we are going to create a new effect. We will not be repeating the patterns. It is not too late. It is never too late. Every choice, every thought, every action we take creates that shift. And we have Halle Berry talking for us, right? Because we shifted that's our effect with what we're doing, showing up, talking about it, making different choices, which is what we're going to do right now. So just so you know, because now it's 8 o'clock, we might have enough time to go through these, but I want to do something else at the last minute that came in. Here's your two great journal prompts when you go back and that you can do on your own, because we're going to do a different writing. Reflect on a time when fear held you back from taking action. What were you afraid of and how did it impact your journey, right? This is looking at where we might have held back in the past instead of taking that action, because we want to be kind to ourselves, as she said, as Alexandra said, and understand why we might have not taken action. If you saw that video I put out yesterday or the day before about 23 years ago, knowing I was supposed to write a book and getting excited and went to Barnes and Noble and bought so many books on how to write for dummies and publishing companies, and because there wasn't a lot to find on Google at that point. And I was so excited, but I shared too early and my excitement wasn't backed up by my knowing. And when family lovingly said, oh, that's nice, they weren't excited as I was. And they were kind of trying to protect me that we're not writers. Like, not saying I couldn't be a writer, that I wasn't good enough, but they wanted to protect me because they didn't know anyone in my family that wrote and that had been published, or that you could even publish yourself. And so there was a protection that came, but that stopped me. And I kind of popped up again after Storm Sandy, and I did write a children's book, and I did actually go to publishing companies, and I had a couple bites on it, but there was still a fear from the first conversation. And it's not until now where this work is showing me, what was I afraid of? I was afraid of failing, and I was afraid of looking stupid or silly. So I didn't move forward, which I am now. So this is your time to move forward. And then your second question here is, consider the impact of inaction on your well-being. What do you need in order to take action and shift from stagnation to empowerment and growth? So looking at where you were going in, right? That's the evolve part. What do we need to stir up a little bit in there? So those are two great journal prompts for you in the law of inspired action. And then the other two, so you can do these in between. I can check in and see what your answers are. Reflect on a time when someone else's expectations or experience influenced your decisions or actions during menopause. It can be during menopause, but it can just be anywhere. It doesn't have to be right now, but it can be. And how can you rewrite this narrative to align with your truth and desires? And the other one is visualize the ripple effect of embracing your voice and agency, just like with my son's girlfriend. How can breaking free from imposed limitations positively impact your future self and well-being? How can it affect others? Oh, and it will. It absolutely will. I think I didn't put it on the slides, but in the workbook, I gave possibilities, choices, some ways that you could rewrite your narrative. So I gave you some options that we didn't need to go through. But I'm going to come back here. Hold on. Let me stop sharing because I'm going to read you something, and then I'm going to have you respond to it. So if you're ready, Melissa, you ready with you're still there? Okay, so you're going to listen for now, and then hold on. Why am I losing gallery? There we go. I'm losing everybody. All right, so I'm going to read to you first, and then I'm going to ask you to respond. Okay, so for now, you can just put your listening ears on. I feel like I'm in class, but then I'm going to have you write. So let me go find what I'm reading. Okay, it's somewhere on my screen. Hold on. Hold, please. There we go. I don't want to lose. I want to put us in the corner so I can still see us as I'm going through in case anybody has their hand up or has a question or a comment. All right. All right. So I'm just reading a couple passages here, and then we're going to take off after that. All right. So this particular topic is called "To gain the peace you seek, you must be willing to sacrifice the pain you suffer." So we're going to be thinking about times in your life and how attached you are to some of your past hurts or betrayals or pain, and why you may be still holding on to it, and how important it is for you, not for them, to release them. Throughout my journey of self-rediscovery, there were times when I tried to shed old feelings that were holding me back: pain, anger, resentment, and judgment. But I found myself hitting a wall. The harder I tried to release the feelings, the more I felt stuck. It was like I was intentionally holding on to things that were causing me pain. Why was I clutching so tightly to what was most definitely not serving me? As a coach, I knew there was a hidden reason, a limiting command playing on repeat in my subconscious mind. The pain I was clinging to seemed to serve a purpose in me, but what? With my life coach's guidance, we dug deep, and I found my pain had become a living, breathing part of me. Like an old, comfy, but tattered and worn blanket, I had wrapped myself tight within. The problem was, after so many years in this cocoon, the blanket took on a life of its own, smothering me and stealing my oxygen. Even though it was suffocating me, I threw a tantrum like a toddler not wanting to give it up. Ultimately, the pain let me go deeper in self-reflection to further question the unusual link between my toxic suffering and why I let it feed me. As I continued to explore my inner world, there was a dawning of a new truth within me. By holding on to my pain, I was keeping myself stuck in a cycle of self-sabotage. The familiar feeling of suffering had become intertwined with my self-identity. Who would I be without the feeling of pain and suffering? It was part of my foundation. In a world that runs on the universal law of rhythm, where all rises and falls and swings like a pendulum, my pain and suffering were solid and unchanging. My pain was always constant and reliable. I knew where I could find it. And as crazy as it sounds, it's true. This was a massive aha moment for me. Wanting peace while still clutching onto pain led me to discover a major conflict within myself. This realization pushed me to face some hard truths about the stories I had woven around my pain. Those stories, though they felt safe and familiar, were actually holding me back and limiting who I could be. Breaking free from these mental chains meant being okay with discomfort and challenging the stories keeping me small and hidden from living my fullest life. This moment of truth became a game changer in my search for inner peace. It meant being brave enough to let go of the past and embrace a new path of growth beyond old hurts. It had me exploring my personal understanding of the word sacrifice. Strange as it sounds, the idea of surrendering my pain felt like sacrificing something I had always relied on, something dear to me. So, this is where we're going right now. A little trip backwards. You could pick anything in your life, but what I would look for is something that it's really been hard to let go of. Something that even though you may have forgiven someone or let go of it, it comes back again, right? Those are the persistent parts that are hard to dig out. So I want you to think for a moment, and I'll put on some music. I've got to go get some in the background. As you write about something that has happened, maybe a possible betrayal or an anger, it could be childhood, it could be adulthood, whatever it is, but that you play tug of war with, that you have come to know as a part of your being, like this passage, a part of who you are as your identity, in what that would look like if you truly let it go. What's the fear of letting it go? So that's your question. I want you to think right now, and I want you to just free write journal, or not you, Gina, because you're driving, about something, someone, a situation that you've tried to let go of, but it still keeps nudging you and staying in there because it's become part of your identity. And that's where we are right now. So I'm going to do about 5 minutes. I'm going to leave you, and I'm going to find something to play in the background as we write. That's one thing I forgot to open was music. Play a little something in the background. Let's do a little beautiful chorus. Love some light. All right, I'm going to share the sound. Share sound. What's this? Basic.
You mean something in childhood or like now?
It can
or
be
like,
it could be anything. Anything, like you have the freedom to, it could be childhood, it could be now, right? If it's something that just keeps coming back and you just it just keeps coming back and you want to let it go, but it keeps coming up, and every time you think that you have forgiven, it comes back up again. So you get to choose whatever first thing that comes to your mind. Don't even try to think too hard about it. Just let it come.
okay.
Why it's not letting me share? I'm glad you're still there, because my screen seems to be frozen right now. I'm trying to bring some beautiful chorus. There we go. All right, so 8:14. I'm going to say 8:20, so I'll give you 6 minutes altogether, because I know sometimes it takes time to think. Can you hear our beautiful chorus? Did I do it right?
Not yet. Mine's spinning, but
Okay.
maybe it's trying to come. It's trying.
It's trying.
Oh, I can hear it now. I can
Oh,
hear it.
good. Good. All right. So I'm
I'll
watching my
turn it.
clock. So 8:20. Yeah, you can turn that off. You can turn your screen off if you want or leave it on. Totally up to you.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna have one more minute and then we'll pull it back together. All right, so let's wrap up where we are. That was a nice, needed that. I love
That was so
beautiful
soothing.
chorus. I know, I love, that's my
It was
favorite.
like, I felt like I was like rocking a baby. Just listening to
That's
it.
my favorite of all their albums, Hymns of Spirit.
Mm.
I walk around during the winter. I would put on my earphones when I bring the pups out in the morning, and I would just walk around with them in my ears. So I
Oh,
love beautiful chorus. All right, so let me put us back so I can see. There we go. All right. So did you find something? Did you want to share, or do you just want to share your feelings about it? You don't have to share the exact you don't want, but
no, I think it's like, I don't know exactly where it's all coming from, but like just the story like I shared earlier, like about like feeling crazy when like you know something's wrong with you, and like I feel like as women we know our bodies, we're like so in tune with it, like, and then when there if something does feel off and you're like trying to doctors dismiss you and like you feel betrayed, like you feel
mm,
crazy, you feel stupid, you feel like you're not enough, and like I kind of feel like I've been fighting this fight like my whole life. It's like tomorrow I'm supposed to get this nuclear medicine test. Like I'm questioning myself. Like, should I even do it? Like, should I have them like inject radioactive material into me? Like,
mm, mm-hmm.
is this just all a facade for me? Like, I don't even know like anymore because I've just been don't know. Like, I just like I did have a stint where I like got down and I couldn't gain weight, but then I came back again and like here I am again, and like is it just like these ups and downs that it's taking my body's just taking me, or is it really serious? Like, oh my gosh, like
Mm-hmm.
everybody around me like do something, don't waste away. Like I don't, but like I have been like really like putting in the effort to like work on myself and like do brain spotting and like taking classes and like really doing self care, like buying this aura ring to know like my
Mm-hmm.
different cycles in my body and like becoming more aware of everything. Like,
And where you
but like
are.
I still don't know. Like, am I doing the right thing? Like, here's what happened in my life. Like, my mom, like, as a kid, I'm thinking, like, okay, I'm pretty healthy. My grandparents were healthy. My grandparents lived to like 100.
Wow.
And like, grandpa had like a slight diabetes, but like, he didn't have to take insulin. He just take like a pill.
Was able
And my
to work with it.
Yeah, and my grandma wasn't like pretty healthy and everything, and my mom seemed to be healthy, but like looking back, like over the years, like she just had stuff like removed, like her thyroid. They found cysts on it. She just got it removed. She had they found like cysts in her like small intestine. She just had half of that removed. Like, she just fixes everything. And it's like I don't know. Like,
I
is that
hear what
like
you're saying. So, you're looking at, if I understand right, you're looking at her that she's taking care of the after effect of what has happened to cause those, which is what happens mostly in our life, right? We go to the doctor to fix what comes up. And it doesn't mean that we shouldn't go to the doctor, right? But if I understand what you're saying, is you're trying to get ahead and not just simply fix what damage has been done, which there may be and again, everything's about balance. So it might be fixing some things that have been, well, like me, I had so many people saying you don't have to get your gallbladder out. A lot of people who are holistic, which I
yeah,
love, holistic and functional, love that, right? And I really am not a huge doctor fan. I'm not, but I knew, right? I paid attention. And so that's what you're being asked to do, right? To lean into your gut, to your womb, to your parts that have that knowledge, right? To take hold of that blue light. And I'm not saying take hold of the blue light and never see a doctor again. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying to trust the direction and the doctors that you choose and the procedures that you have, right? So it doesn't mean not taking care of things. I knew my gallbladder needed to come out. It was full of sludge. I did not want something in my body that was full of sludge. It was no longer working right. I mean, my life has not been the same. I don't care what they say. They say, oh, you can live without your gallbladder. Yes, you can live without your gallbladder. But things are never quite the same once that comes out, which the doctors never told me, right? But I already
Yeah.
knew that no matter what, I still would choose this because it was not meant to stay in me. And that was instinctual. That was an intuitive hit that I'm not going to try to remedy this. That's one of those ones that had to be taken out, right? I knew it did, but then I also had to choose, all right, what else do I need to change in my life? There's a reason, like you're saying, it got to this point. There's a reason why I got here and I was full of sludge and this needed to come out. It doesn't just haphazardly happen, right? There's reasons for it. So if I understand you correctly, it's like you want to have more and do more and be better than you watched, like you're watching your mom right now. You don't want to just take out, take out,
Yeah.
take out. You want to increase your quality of life, right? And how you're living right now. And for you, when the where we went, we'll go back and circle to what was it that you don't want to let go of, right? What is it that, and we need to know what is it that we don't want to let go of that's been a part. And you said, my whole life, I have, I've spoken and no one's listened to me. And you go to doctors or you're talking, at work, no one's listening. And so that's a fear, right? If it's not love, it's going to be fear of being silenced. And it's become a part of your life. And so, although this is the part that most people have a hard time with, although we know that we don't want it any longer, we also have become very attached to it.
Addicted.
It's a piece of us, right? It's a piece of us. So in that piece that I read to you, which is still not unedited, it's still unedited at this point, it has not. That's why I stumbled over. That's one of my chapters. And it goes on in that chapter to talk about Ashlyn when she got her teeth out this year, her wisdom teeth, right? Your body will learn how to live without it. We're really attached to it because it's become a part of us. That fear has become a part of your identity. That's who Melissa is. That's who she was in school. That's who she was in the workplace. That's how she was in the coal mines. That's how she is right now, right? That is a piece of Melissa. Even though you don't want it, it's become a piece of your identity. And so that's why we went there, because part of this going through menopause is pulling up the old. We're not living behind the veil any longer, right? We're in that next heightened state of taking a look. It's an inventory, literally. That's the beauty. We don't have to be dying to have an inventory of our life. That's what we're doing. And so you're going into a state of like, what has become so intensely a part of my identity that it's difficult to rip it out. She got those teeth out. It was weird for months. There was holes in there. She had to eat differently. She had to, change how she lived and existed before the teeth came out. But your body can live without it. It begins to adapt. It closed somewhat. She's like, they're still kind of there. I have to be careful. She flosses more, right? Gets that cleaned out. So my point in that, the fear that you have, whether you recognize it or not, subconsciously, is if I let this go, what will fill its place? This is a part of me. I've known, I hate it, right? That's the crazy part. I hate it, but it's been part of me that no one listens to me. It's been my story. It's been the constant in my life. I hate it, but I know that it's part of me. And so where you're at right now is being able to take a look at that. Right. So as we close up, this is a perfect way to wrap up here for anyone who's listening later, and whatever you end up writing about, right? Taking a look at and gently and lovingly have a conversation with you in quiet time, whether you're outside. Nature is a great place to be in a grounding, to look at that part. So you specifically, but anyone else who's listening can take it to what's coming up for them. That piece that you don't want to give up is that fear of not being heard. It's been a piece of you. And what will that look like if I give it up? right? What will fill its place? Will there just be an emptiness? Who will I be? And that, I know that sounds crazy to say, but that's the subconscious, that's the unconscious working that we just cycle in. And so by you, if you choose to take up this task, I feel like it's the Hunger Games, right? But in all seriousness, if you choose to release that fear, that piece of you, that pain that's been in there of not being heard your whole life. Because in order to be heard, you have to release the fear of not being heard. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but how do you release it though?
That's the conscious part where you sit literally and you go quietly, right? It doesn't have to be meditation, just quiet contemplated time. And I want you to, once you do, it's a great question, right? To sit down with that piece of you. See what
Make
she
friends
looks
with
like.
it.
See what she looks like, right? Give her, see, is she little? Is she big? Is she a teen? Is she 5? Is she 3? When you go quiet, right, and you ask to sit with her, you'll be shown where that brings you. And don't try to picture it. Just allow that to flow in and you'll see exactly how long this has been running with you. It'll give you like, hey, when you see how old she is, when you want to see that pain of not being heard, you're going to see how long you've been running with her, how long she's been stuck inside, like that piece of pain that's been there. And once you do, you have a conversation with her, and a real conversation, not just make friends, let her know that you thank her. She had a job at one point, right? She had something that served you, but at this point, her frequency is not required. And you can literally say that to her. I love you, but your frequency is not required for me any longer. She had a job to do, but she was long expired, but she's still been running with you. And so knowing that, choosing that, what I would do after that, once you have that conversation with her and you let her go, she doesn't need to run with you. You literally need to say goodbye to her, just as you would someone who is leaving, right? Give her love.
Thank you
say
for
goodbye.
protecting me. Yeah.
Thank you. You can say beautiful, right? You to see what comes up. So you no longer need her frequency. Think it's not required. I thank you for all the work you've done. I love you, but I'm going to release you. And what I would do once you've done that, so whenever you choose to sit down, if it's tonight, later, if it's tomorrow, whatever, after that for 30 more days, each morning, one of the things that I want you to do is give gratitude for the service she gave you and the fact that you were allowed, you allowed yourself to let her go. So thank her once again, just in the ethers, and thank yourself for being brave enough to let her go. Because you need a reminder. Right?
Yeah.
Doing it once is not going to be enough. You're going to want to go back to that old neural pathway. It's been carved into the wood, right? So you're going to need to create a new pathway of thinking. And so daily add it in your gratitude, because when we say thank you, it is very, very powerful that we believe that we've already received. So give gratitude for being brave enough to let her go. It's kind of like you going, oh, right? That's the way of getting that into your head. So at least I would actually say 90 days, honestly.
90.
Yeah. Why not just
Yes,
add it?
because it's so deeply embedded.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to go with, you can definitely do, but if you want my honest, it's 90. A solid, just add it. All you've got to do is add it to you don't have to do anything big. You just add it to your gratitudes, because your subconscious will go, oh yeah, I forgot we let her go. Right.
Make it a habit. Like
yes, make it a habit. Oh, Gina, you're still with us. Awesome. Yeah, because you definitely want to make it a habit, right? Because you're going to automatically want to go back to the divots in the road. Like if you've ever tried to change lanes and the road has kind of like where the tires have gone, your car kind of pulls back. That's where you're going to want to go. So instead of being, all right, this morning I'm going to remember that I let her go. We want a powerhouse. Just add it to your gratitudes, but put it on the top of the list. Oh, thank you for being brave enough. Talk to you. Thank you for being brave enough to let her go. And we appreciate when she was here, right? Simple. Just add it to your list of gratitudes. Don't worry about having specific words, but you've got to have the conversation first. You've got to, and asking and taking a look at how old she is, what she's wearing, that type of, it'll give you an idea of how long she's been in control.
What like music should I listen to when I'm doing it, do you think?
Oh, beautiful chorus is beautiful if you like that.
Yeah.
It's soothing in the background.
Oh.
That's a great one to listen to. Yep, that's a great one to listen to. For me, honestly, it depends on, sometimes I need quiet. Lately, I've been even more triggered with noise and sound. And sometimes, like when I'm doing that. So test it out. See, play, play. Try it with music, try it without music. See what you like. There's no better way. It's about how you can tune in.
Thank you
Beautiful.
so much.
You're welcome. That's a
Yeah,
great
Gina said
question.
it's deep. It is deep.
Oh, did she? I don't have that open. It is deep. And that's what we're doing. Like right now, that's what this is so powerful to. This is an inventory, right? All the things. And we're like, why do I feel like I'm going crazy? Why do we feel like we're going crazy? We have a heightened receiving. We're in that blue light now. We're in that violet flame. We're past just the lunar. We're both, right? So we have like exploded into this next. And
I feel it too. I do
so
when I walk
much,
into
right?
rooms.
Yes. And so much is coming in. So much that's still stuck is like, yeah, but we got this going on, right? And now you've got this going on. And so that's why this work is so powerfully important to really take advantage of this time. And the more we clear out, the better we are. And I'm going to finish us off. Sounds bad. I'm not finishing us off, but I pulled 2 messages. You are very welcome, Gina. I'm going to finish us off with 2 messages to go with. So evolve, emerge, expand, and a light key code, and they fit beautifully together. So definitely get outside. This one is: you hold the light to heal the world. By healing your soul, you heal the earth. We are absolutely transmuting so many of the pollutants and the issues of the world by going inward, right? We need, you shift everything. So this is not selfish. This is intentionally shifting everything, but it starts with us because it's the only person that we have any control with, not even over, but with. And the other one, gorgeous. We've got a lotus, the key to evolving. Well, that's not perfect, right? There exists no distinction between the soil and the flower, as both possess essential elements for evolution. Neither is superior over the other. The flower and the soil are both beautiful, right? Both are needed. And to close us off is a little shadow and light work. If you planted a seed, right? If you've ever planted anything, or we know how it works, you cannot have growth without light and shadow. And the push is that law of contrast needs to go in both directions. In order for the flower to grow up and break through the soil, the roots have to push down and break through the soil. So 2 directions must be had, one up towards the light, but one down into the deep, dark soil. And it doesn't need to be feared. And we don't need to put labels on good or bad, light or shadow. We tend to do that, right? But think of that, it's neutral. It needs both. For a plant, a tree, anything to grow, it needs to go in opposite directions, duality of it at the same exact time. And neither is good nor bad. If you don't go down, if there's not enough room for roots, it's not going to go up, right? And going up will only go as far as the roots will go down. So that's what we're doing right now in this very powerful time, all of us together. So thank you, ladies. All of you who are showing up later and watching the replay, and those of you who showed up live, thank you for that energy exchange. I could be doing this and making the video and putting out, but it feels so much, I feed off of
I love the connection.
Yeah, having everyone
Thank you.
here. So
it's so good for me tonight too.
Yes, beautiful night for you. Have a beautiful night.
Thank you.
Sending you much
You
love.
too.